I've been staring at my banking app for about 10 minutes, just staring. My thumb is hovering over the screen, almost afraid to scroll, because usually, opening this app gives me a knot in my stomach. Usually, I'm bracing myself to see a single digit, or worse, a negative sign in red. But today, right there in the row labeled Emergency Fund, is a number that looks weirdly unfamiliar to me. $100. Even. It sounds so small when I say it out loud. It's barely a trip to the grocery store these days. But seeing that triple-digit number sitting there, safe and untouched, makes me want to cry. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here is exactly what happened. To be honest, I didn't think I could do it. When I started this channel, the idea of having extra money that wasn't already spoken for by a bill or a debt payment, felt like a fantasy. I've lived paycheck to paycheck for so long that my brain is wired to spend whatever hits the account immediately, just to survive. But this $100 represents the first real crack in that cycle. It's the first goal I set for myself when I read Atomic Habits. Just get to $100. Not $1,000, not 3 months of expenses, just 100. I wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of keeping money, not just losing it. The crazy thing is the relief. I walked around all day knowing that if my tire blows out or if I need a prescription, I don't have to put it on a credit card. I don't have to dig the hole deeper. For the first time in years, I have a tiny, tiny shield. It's thin, but it's there. And honestly, it feels better than any impulse purchase I've made in the last 5 years. But getting that money to stay in the account wasn't magic. It was actually kind of boring and a little painful. So, let's get into the spreadsheet, because the numbers don't lie, even when I want them to. If you've been following the logs, you know my total debt mountain was sitting right around $37,800 last week. It's a number that usually makes me want to close the laptop and go watch Netflix until I fall asleep. It feels impossible. It feels like I'm trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. But this week, I decided to focus on the teaspoon. Here is the breakdown of exactly where the money went. I managed to lower my principal debt balance by $50, and like I said, I topped off the emergency fund to hit that magic $100. Now I know what you're thinking, $50, that's it. And trust me, I felt that too. When I pressed Submit Payment on the credit card portal, the balance went from $37,800 to $37,750. Visually, the bar graph barely moved. If you squint, it looks exactly the same. But here is the messy reality of where that $50 and the final $20 for the emergency fund actually came from. It wasn't bonus money, it wasn't a raise, it was literally me fighting my own habits hour by hour. Tuesday was the hardest. I had a rough day at work. Just one of those days where nothing goes right and your boss is breathing down your neck. The old me, the old buddy, I would have driven straight to the drive-thru on the way home. I would have spent $18 on a burger and shake because I felt like I deserved it for surviving the day. That's my trigger, emotional spending. But this time, I sat in the parking lot. I literally turned the car off and sat there for 5 minutes. I thought about the 1% rule. I thought, if I buy this burger, I am voting for the person who stays in debt. If I go home and eat the leftovers I really don't want, I am voting for the person who is free. I went home. I ate the leftovers. It wasn't fun, it wasn't tasty, but that was $18 saved. Then on Thursday, I did something I've been avoiding. I went into my closet. I found 2 jackets I haven't worn in 3 years. I listed them on a local marketplace app. I thought nobody would want them, but someone picked them up within an hour. That was $40 cash in my hand. So between the sad leftovers victory, $18, and the closet cleanout, $40, I had roughly $58 of found money. I took 50 of that and threw it immediately at the debt. I didn't wait. I didn't let it sit in my checking account where I might accidentally buy a video game or a coffee. I sent it away. Then, I looked at my emergency fund. It was sitting at $80 from the last few weeks of scraping. I took the rest of the cash from the week, squeezed out a little extra from my grocery budget, literally buying the generic brand pasta instead of the name brand, and found the last $20. Transfer. Done. $100. It feels weird to celebrate this. Paying $50 off a $37,800 debt feels like nothing. But logically, I know it's the snowball. I've heard about the snowball method, paying small things to get momentum, and even though this is just a dent in the big number, the action of doing it felt different this time. Usually, when I pay a bill, I feel resentful. I feel like my money is being stolen by the past version of me who spent it. But this week, finding that money by making different choices, it felt like I was taking control back. I traded a burger and 2 old jackets for a slightly smaller number and a slightly safer bank account. The math is boring, it's slow, it's unsexy, but for the first time looking at that spreadsheet, I don't feel just guilt. I feel a tiny spark of agency. I actually did that. But the biggest takeaway for me this week isn't the math. It's not the $50 or the $100. It's the action that talks about in Atomic Habits regarding identity. He says that every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. For the last 10 years, every time I swiped my credit card for something I didn't need, I was casting a vote for the broke guy. I was reinforcing the identity of someone who is bad with money, someone who can't say no, someone who's always drowning. And when you cast that many votes, the election is a landslide. You start to believe that's just who you are. I'm just bad with numbers. I'm just a spender. This week, by eating the leftovers and selling the jackets, I cast 2 votes for a new identity, the saver. That $100 in the emergency fund is my proof of concept. It proves that I am not genetically wired to be in debt. It proves that my system was broken, not me. That shift in perspective is terrifying because it means I have no more excuses, but it's also incredibly freeing. The mountain is still there, all $37,750 of it. But I'm not looking at the peak anymore. I'm just looking at my feet, making sure my next step is a 1% improvement over yesterday. I know I'm going to mess up again. I know there will be a week where I buy the burger, but now I have this green number in my bank account to remind me that I can do it. I started the engine. Now I just have to keep the car on the road. My 1% mission for tomorrow is just to move $1 from checking to savings. That's it, just $1. It seems pointless, but it keeps the habit alive. What's your 1% step? Will you skip a coffee? Will you sell one old book? Let's share our small wins in the comments below. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.